Before we even start, I want you to take a second and just look carefully at the things around you. You know how sometimes a completely normal, static shadow in your room can suddenly feel alien? Well, we're kicking things off today in the bone-chilling, unforgiving January winter of Quetta, Pakistan. What started as just a regular, happy reunion of four friends turned into a terrifying night that literally changed their lives forever.
Before we really unpack the facts of this case, let this thought sink in for a moment. Because the true story of Ali Raza from Hazara Town, it absolutely proves that reality can be way more terrifying than any fiction you could ever dream up.
So, let's set the scene. It's an ordinary night at a local dhaba. Four childhood friends are catching up after 2 years because one of them just got back from Islamabad. Everyone's laughing, having a great time, drinking tea, and then the friend from Islamabad pitches an idea that changes the entire trajectory of their night, a spontaneous winter camping trip up in the mountains.
Now, what's really fascinating here is the sheer contrast in how they reacted to this pitch. You've got the Islamabad friends' naive excitement for a fun winter camp in Karkasar completely clashing with Ali's immediate, gut-wrenching dread. See, anyone from Quetta knows that the Karkasar Trail leads straight into the infamous Chiltan Mountains, and you just don't go there at night, period. Let's look at how quickly this escalated. They finalized the plan at 4 p.m., and by 5:30, they're leaving Hazara Town, headlamps on, feeling invincible. But the first real red flag hits them at 7:30 p.m., halfway up a treacherous rocky incline when a blinding white searchlight from a Frontier Corps checkpost locks directly onto them. The mountain was basically giving them a massive, undeniable rule of 3 warning to turn around. First, that intense checkpost light. Second, this heavy, unnatural silence that completely swallowed all the sounds of the city below. And third, 2 unnervingly still men just sitting in the pitch-black trail. But you know how it is with a group of friends, they just rationalized it all away as normal signals or local drug addicts.
As they walked past those 2 unmoving men in the dark, one of them said this. He didn't yell it, he wasn't trying to be scary. It was just an eerie, flat statement of fact, like he knew exactly what was waiting for them up there. But their ego won out, and they kept pushing forward.
Now, you might be wondering, especially with these types of dark, isolated mountain treks, is there a specific cave mentioned in this story? Because usually, these legends revolve around a specific physical spot, right?
And the answer to that is a resounding yes. The Islamabad friend was acting super weird, almost like he was being magnetically drawn to the danger. He actually suggested setting up their camp right next to a mysterious pitch-black cave by the next peak. Thankfully, Ali flat out refused that idea.
Which brings us to a specific number that completely shifted the vibe of the entire night. As they pushed further up the trail, they stumbled into this relatively flat, rocky clearing and made a discovery they were absolutely not ready for.
This is what they found. 3 raised graves right in the middle of this barren nowhere. And standing right next to them, a completely static figure, just staring intensely at the graves. The sheer, overwhelming panic hit them so hard, they all silently started reciting Ayatul Kursi, hoping it wouldn't notice them. Desperate to find a safe spot away from that figure, they pushed past the graves and finally set up their tent near a lone electric pole. It's about 10:30 p.m. now. They're fighting these fierce, howling, unnatural winds just to get a bonfire going, desperately hoping it would give them some kind of psychological comfort.
But here's the crazy part. The real horror wasn't even outside anymore. Sometime around 1:30 a.m., inside that claustrophobic tent, the Islamabad friend went through a terrifying transformation. First, he goes dead silent, just staring at the tent fabric like he's listening to a voice we can't hear. Then, he walks outside, pours their drinking water on their fire, screams in pure anger when they play Ayatul Kursi, and then literally vanishes into the dark.
Right before he vanished, when they heard these heavy footsteps circling outside, and one of the guys played Ayatul Kursi on his phone for protection, the Islamabad friend snapped out of his trance just long enough to yell this chilling warning, "Stop it, or it will come." This whole sequence leads us to one of the most disturbing questions of the entire night. What on earth happened that forced these guys to physically tie their own friends' hands together?
Well, here's the horrifying reality. When they finally found him out in the dark, he was silently walking up from a pitch-black ravine, a drop so steep that going down there at night was basically certain death. It was like he was being pulled over the edge by an invisible string.
To keep him alive, they literally had to tie his hands to a rope connected directly to themselves. But securing him didn't stop whatever was hunting them. Those heavy footsteps outside the tent came back, and instead of the prayers keeping it away, reciting Ayatul Kursi seemed to actually enrage the entity. The footsteps got faster, heavier, and charged right up to the front flap of their tent. When they finally mustered up the absolute last bit of courage they had to peek through the tiny window of their tent, they came face to face with it. So what exactly did this massive 7-foot shadow look like up close? It defied all human anatomy. We're talking about a figure over 7 feet tall and possibly unnaturally thin, appearing as this completely featureless void of solid blackness, and it wasn't attacking them. It was just standing perfectly still, staring right through them with a deeply unsettling calmness. In a moment of pure, desperate survival, Ali spoke directly to the towering shadow, begging, "We won't harm you, let us go." And the absolute craziest part? The second he said those words, the entity vanished in the blink of an eye. The moment it disappeared, the weather just snapped. An unforecasted, violent rainstorm hit them out of nowhere. It felt like the mountain itself was flushing them out. The second the sun started to rise, they scrambled, slipped, and ran for their lives down the trail, not looking back once. Just look at this contrast at the end of our timeline. When they made it down to safety, a local imam validated their terror, telling them they were lucky to be alive because some places just aren't meant for humans. But then, there's the lingering mystery. Even 4 months later, if you ask the Islamabad friend what happened when he walked down into that ravine, he doesn't answer. He just gives this eerie, unsettling smile. So, I want to leave you with this final thought. They were never alone on that mountain. Something was watching their every single step. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to like, subscribe, and share Mysterious Pathways for more true horror. And let me know down in the comments, have you ever visited a place that just silently told you it didn't want you there? Keep watching Mysterious Pathways, where the truth is always scarier than fiction. Catch you next time.